and you know, he can't even get time playing here in the NBA. But
Right.
you know, again, I'm not sure why that happened.
I actually, you know, go on YouTube and saw some clips of how Jeremy played. He's pretty impressive. I mean, he was going up against these national, I guess, well-established collegiate athletes, point guards and so forth. He can hold on his own. I mean, I see him doing some crazy, you know, blocks and scoring and passes.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, I haven't seen him play, but you know, again, I've read about him because of all this attention that's come about. But you know, again, you have to remember, you know, there's only maybe 4,800 college basketball players out there, and you know, in the pros, there's only, I think it's like 270, 280 pro athletes or pro basketball players, NBA players. So you know, that's a huge cut down, and even though, you know, you're starring at Harvard, doesn't necessarily mean you can star at the next level, and that's the test. If he can compete and show everyone that he's worthy, then yeah, you know, the NBA, it's a business. They want the best athletes.
sure.
You know,
sure.
just like anyone else. You know, just like corporate America, you want the best person, and you know, sometimes your skin color comes into play, and other times it doesn't. But in the NBA, you know, it definitely, it's all about your skills on the court.
Well, talking about marketing, like you said, Lakers pick up that player because of the, maybe they want to tap into the China market, right? May not necessarily, his skill levels may not necessarily up there with these NBA players, but they picked him up for the fact, like you said, NBA is a business. They may be picking him up for the fact that they can sell more tickets or more viewerships to you know, the Asian market. I mean, China, we know, is a very big market for an NBA, you know. So you think that might help Jeremy a little bit?
I think if he's on the bubble, that you know, it'll be reverse discrimination. If there was like him and another kid that are on the bubble, and Jeremy is a yellow man, and you know, he can sell tickets to the Asian market, you know, I think they would consider drafting him. So yeah, there could be reverse prejudice in a sense in that case.
Yeah, I just read it coming onto the show. They were playing, Harvard was playing Santa Clara, and we know Santa Clara has a very large Asian population.
Right.
Right.
It was a sold out, and most people on the stand were wearing Jeremy's color in supporting of not Santa Clara but actually Harvard team.
Right.
So, well, let's take a quick break. Let's come back and then discuss this subject further, because I know, Mike, you know a lot about sports. I know you have a lot of athletes out there that we can talk about, you know, other than just Jeremy out there. So take a quick break. We'll be back.
Happy to do it.
Welcome back to Community Roundtable. Again, my name is Henry Huang, I'm the host, and the other host is Marissa Wall, and our guest today is Mike Jin. We're talking about Jeremy Lin, first half of the show. Right. Talking about, you know, maybe his color of skin kind of limiting him from getting his scholarships, and maybe a roadblock or maybe a boost to him to help to get him to the next level. So to continue our topic is, want to know, why are Asian athletes, I guess more specifically API athletes, getting discriminated in the sports world? I know there's stereotyping out there saying we're only good, we're brainy people, we're only good in math, engineering, chemistry, whatever. So Mike, what do you think about that?
Well, I do agree with you. You know, we talked a little bit earlier about you know, the physical attributes. You know, Asians aren't as tall or as strong, and you know, in general as other races. And I think that perception, that stereotype, kind of plays into what coaches and agents and stuff like that see. You know that you know, a lot of times they consider the Asians as not taking risk or you know, not being aggressive enough on the court, because you know, in sports you definitely have to be aggressive in order to succeed, and you know, that's a stereotype or perception that I think holds the yellow man back a little bit from the bigger picture.
You mean like they just playing sports so that they can so they can have a good college resume to get into good college?
Well, and that leads me to the cultural factors of why I think Asians don't succeed in sports. Is a lot of it has to do with the parents.
Yes.
You know, the parents, you know, definitely emphasize, or in the Asian culture, they have emphasized schoolwork, going to school, getting good grades. So sports really take second stage, and it's not as important. You know, how many of your friends' parents will pay for a tutor or for piano lessons?
Oh yeah, they'll pay a lot of money for that.
But when it comes to coaching or sports training, you know, how many will do that?
Right.
Yeah, and it's just a different mentality.
I think it's changing though. You got to admit,
It is changing.
Oh, it is
No.
changing. And you know that the article we were talking about earlier with Time Magazine, it's interesting because it said specifically, there were several paragraphs about Jeremy Lin's father, because he fell in love with sports, and he was actually an engineer, but he had two sons, and he said, I really just want my boys to play out in the field. You know, they don't really need to be in the library all the time, and he just really fostered their growth in sports. So do you think that like the parenting and the culture of that is changing, and then that'll be a new wave for Asian American players?
I definitely do. I think that's where it starts. I mean, because I remember I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and you know, I looked at, you know, pro sports, and you don't see any Asians, you don't see any yellow men running around, and so we don't have, our age group, we had nothing to really look up to. But nowadays you're starting to see that change. You know, you've got in the NBA, you've got, you know, Yao Ming leading the way. And you know, it's encouraging more Asians to go ahead and play basketball, and you know, maybe Jeremy Lin will be the next guy coming up. And it just takes time. Baseball is another thing. You know, baseball, the first Asian baseball player to play in the majors played back in the 1940s with the San Francisco Giants. He was from Japan.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and then it wasn't until, you know, 1985 when Hideo Nomo came to the Dodgers.
Hey, look at that big gap in between.
Yeah, because, you know, again, the Asian American kids growing up here didn't have anyone to look up to. But in Japan, you know, baseball is part of their culture, and kids grow up wanting to play baseball and succeeding in baseball. So, you know, in that standpoint, their mentality is, you know, I can succeed. I can play with the best of them. Right. And it wasn't until, you know, until Hideo Nomo took that step to come to America, you know, he, you know, basically pissed off his whole nation, but he came over here and people said, no, you can't do it. You know, Japanese players are not as good. You know, the American players will you know, knock home runs off you and stuff like that. But he obviously succeeded. Yeah. He was Rookie of the Year.
Right, to change, it's also changed the whole dynamics.
Right.
You know, personal story is, when I was growing up, like you mentioned,